Most people fear cholesterol, high blood pressure, heart disease, but almost nobody knows about or fears glycation. So what is glycation? Glycation is the most destructive biochemical process in the body. It destroys skin, tissues, arteries, the brain, disrupts hormones, and makes almost every chronic disease far worse, if not being the absolute cause of that chronic disease. If you care about looking younger, being healthier, getting rid of some kind of chronic disease or preventing it, and just outright being a healthy human, you need to watch this video. Okay, so what is glycation? So it's when glucose attaches to fats or protein without any enzymatic control. So in other words, enzymes are not processing that glucose, the fats, or the protein anymore. When glucose attaches itself to collagen, elastin, LDL particles, hormones, or even your DNA, it forms a compound called AGEs, which is advanced glycation end products. When glucose attaches itself to collagen, elastin, hemoglobin, LDL cholesterol, or even your DNA, it forms a compound called AGEs, which stands for advanced glycation end products. These AGEs cause stiffened arteries, triggers inflammation, accelerates aging, stiffens your blood vessels, damages tissues, and increases oxidative stress. That's just to name a few. Think of it as caramelizing your tissues from the inside. So look at it from this point of view. If you've ever taken sugar and heated it in a pan, tried to make toffee or whatever it is, and it becomes that like sticky substance, you mix it with a bit of butter to try and make the toffee, that's called glycation. And that's what it does when your glucose levels remain elevated for too long, which is the majority, when I say majority, 90% of people on planet Earth. So basically, high blood glucose causes glycation. And this can be caused by snacking, too much sugar intake, starchy carbs, snacking, liquid sugar like sodas, even healthy, heavy carbohydrate type diets can cause this glycation in the body and age you faster. So every time you eat carbohydrates, your blood glucose rises. The other thing is like grazing. So grazing will keep your blood glucose at an elevated level, keep your insulin at an elevated level. That means constant glycation and constant metabolic stress. That's why I always recommend skipping breakfast, just to give your metabolism like just a bit of a rest. So less frequent eating equals less glycation. Eventually, if you're on a high carbohydrate, high sugar diet, even moderate, you'll find that you're going to have high insulin levels for too long. And when that happens, you become insulin resistant. When you become insulin resistant, glucose levels start to rise. That causes a constant oxidative stress in your cells and in your tissues, and it causes this glycation to really, really compound. This is why pre-diabetics or heavily insulin-resistant people or diabetics, they tend to age faster and their lifespan gets shorter. And AGEs can come from other food as well, like if you're going to have a rack of ribs with a barbecue sauce on. That is probably one of the worst things that you could do, because those glucose in that barbecue sauce or that sugar in that barbecue sauce is going to attach itself to the proteins in the actual ribs. Deep fried starches, they are the worst, like donuts, chips, French fries, that kind of a thing. Ice cream, sugar plus fat plus heat. It's the worst combination. The heat is one of the worst things for causing food to make you go into some kind of a state of glycation. And then obviously all kinds of processed food, because that's just, you don't know what they've done with that stuff. So stay away from ultra-processed food completely if you care about your health. And the thing is with those kinds of food is they deliver a preformed kind of glycation straight into your body, like delivered, almost like a takeout, quick delivery for your body in the form of glycation. So these AGEs, they don't just float around in your body. They start to attach themselves to like different receptors. So it could be like a vitamin D receptor, so you're not absorbing the amount of vitamin D that you should be. Or it could be an insulin receptor, which is obviously the case because then you are not receiving insulin and glucose at the rate that you should do into the cell, because all of these things just become gummed up and caramelized. Can you imagine what that's going to do inside your body? It sets off a chain reaction of health issues. This whole cascade of declining health starts to happen when glycation really gets out of control in your body, which doesn't take long. And in fact, you can actually catch this very early in life. So it really, really takes hold after about 15 years of a bad diet. Then it takes hold, and it takes hold hard, and a person's health declines very fast. That's why you find people around the age of 40 start trying to turn to some kind of a health program because they have felt that their bodies are declining. And it's got everything to do with this glycation process. So you've heard of people having their HbA1c tested and it was high. So that basically means glycation has happened. Your red blood cells are coated in this hard kind of glucose, and they can't free themselves and they can't operate properly in your body. So this starts causing something called diabetes type 2. So when it comes to cardiovascular disease, glycation is the number one culprit when it comes to heart attacks and so on. There are other reasons for heart attacks, but glycation is usually the bottom of, or the foundation of what's happening with cardiovascular health. The reason for this is something called atherosclerosis. So this is when it starts hardening your arteries. So you've heard of like people getting stiffened arteries and hardened arteries, and it's the fats and it's too much saturated fat and blah, 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 blah. It's actually the sugar that's causing that. And that's when the disrupted LDL cholesterol starts to take hold and stick to your artery walls. And this then rolls out and causes heart attack, strokes, and all kinds of other cardiovascular problems, including high blood pressure. Alzheimer's, for instance, is really just the glycation of the neurons in the brain, which start to cause dementia and a disruption in the electrical impulses that are going on in the brain, and the person then starts to decline. You'll find that once that happens, it's an indicator that something far worse is actually going on in the body. Same with the kidneys. It just basically damages all the filtration systems in the kidneys, and the person starts to decline that way. So very many people who have diabetes type 2 or are very insulin resistant very often have a kidney disease issue, stage 4 or stage 5 at the same time. You've heard of people who've got diabetes who eyes start to fail on them and they start to go blind. You can actually go blind from too much diabetes type 2. It's the same thing. It's the glycation of the optic nerves. So that's basically what happens, and it causes a massive pressure inside the eyeball, and the person goes blind. It's skin aging. So basically, it starts making the skin brittle, dull, and starts to discolor, becomes flaky. The collagen becomes stiffer and harder. Same with your tendons and your ligaments. So people start to develop back issues, knee issues, and all of these things have got to do with glycation. It is absolutely one of the most important things that people should know about and how to prevent it. The other thing then is erectile dysfunction, because erectile dysfunction hasn't really got anything to do with the hormones. What it's got to do is with the narrowing of the veins and the arteries and the capillaries, which make the erection. And when those are too restricted, no erection, no fun. Then we get to cancer. So this massive oxidative stress just helps it along. There's no point in going down that road. You may as well just eat a healthy diet, avoid the glycation, and all of these things that I'm busy talking about right now. So the thing is with glycation as well is it makes the body crave glucose, which is why the person then starts to crave sugar, like chocolates and whatever it is that the person wants. Sugar and carbohydrates become a massive, massive thing in the person's life, which obviously just compound this because the person is no longer burning fat for fuel. They're burning glucose, and they're not even doing that anymore because the body has now gone too far and everything's just starting to harden up like a hard candy that you find in the candy store. This then, in turn, causes the thyroid to slow down, testosterone less, estrogen levels go out of control, stress hormones go out of control, so you get this whole hormonal imbalance because of glycation. So glycation, glycation, glycation. You've got to know about this and how to avoid it or to reverse the damage it has done. And you can't out-supplement glycation. That's a very, very pharmaceutical kind of look at it. You have to lower glucose levels. You have to lower glucose levels to stop glycation. If you don't take that excess glucose out of the blood, you are going to be suffering from all of these things that I've been talking about. And you can do that by obviously cleaning up your diet and taking as much sugar out as you possibly can, if not all of it, and all the carbohydrates that you can, if not all of it. But one of the best ways of doing it is intermittent fasting. So just skip breakfast. Eat at 12 p.m. and at 5 or 6 p.m. You've got yourself a 6-hour eating window there, and just do those 2 meals. No snacking. Don't snack late at night or in the morning. That's considered a meal. That will raise blood glucose and cause glycation. That is one of the worst causes of glycation, is actually snacking, even if it is a healthy snack. Like I'm just having some nuts now, and I'm just having some oats now, and then I'll have lunch. So those are meals. It's not what I say, it's what your body considers it as. Your body will consider it as a meal. It will raise glucose and then thus raise insulin, and the more you do that, the higher it stays. It doesn't go down. Now, I would suggest like keeping your sugar and carbohydrates to less than 50 grams per day. So 50 grams per day will lower blood glucose levels quite nicely. And then also go on to a moderate protein, high fat kind of diet. So fat doesn't do this to your body. Fat becomes a very clean fuel. So it's a very clean fuel for your body to burn, and your glucose levels come down, your insulin levels come down, hormones become balanced, your A1C starts to get into range. All of these things start to come back to normal because your body likes to recover. It likes to survive. And if the damage is not too bad in the body, you can actually bring it all the way back. I'm living proof of that. I used to have a terrible diet. And I was the guy who would lay in bed at night reading a book, eating a bag of marshmallows before I went to sleep. And I'm disgusted with myself now, and I'm ashamed of myself. But that was 15 years ago, and I've turned everything around, and I've been handling my health using high fat, low carbs, moderate protein since then. I'm very careful about what I eat to make sure that glycation doesn't happen in my body. Another thing is with glycation is it's going to cause all kinds of broken down protein, waste protein floating around in your body, having toxic effects on you. So if you bring your A1C down, you bring your glucose down, and you start to become a more healthy eater, like with your fats and your moderate proteins, and then add into that intermittent fasting, and here and there some kind of a prolonged fast, like even 24, 48, or even 36 hours, you go into a condition called autophagy. And autophagy takes all that old broken down protein and it rejuvenates it. It It recycles it and turns it into usable protein so that your body can use it again as a building block. Now that sounds great, and that's how the body likes to operate. It likes to survive. You just have to give it a fighting chance. One of the other things that you've also got to do is you've got to handle stress, man. You really got to chill out. You've got to get your sleep, and you've got to keep those stress levels down. So if there's things that are stressing you out in your life, you've really got to remove those things and not, get into them, get into your head. If you have little processes that you do, like go for a walk and look around or whatever it might be. And then also start dealing with high antioxidative foods like cruciferous vegetables or blueberries or bulberries or something like that. Cruciferous vegetables, particularly kale, contain something called sulforaphane. It is such a great antioxidant. It will help your body so much. I drink a kale shake every single day. I mix some blueberries in there and I put some mint in there and I freeze my kale. I freeze everything before I blend it. Put a bit of mineral water in there and or mountain water, and I have that for lunch every single day. So and my body craves it, and all of our clients talk about that as well. Their bodies crave this drink when they go away and they're traveling and they come back. They say, "I can't wait to have my kale shake." I never thought I'd say that. I never thought I'd say that. So if you want to know whether you've got this glycation going on in your body, there's some things you can look for, like poor sleep is a definite telltale sign. Blood sugar elevation, or even fluctuation. You also have your skin sagging and doesn't look like it's any good anymore and you're looking old. Chronic inflammation, stiff joints. These are all indicators that you could be dealing with this. And if you look at your diet and you think there might be a bit too much sugar or carbohydrates in there, you're probably dealing with it and you probably need to do something about it. So if we're talking about aging, it's not necessarily a chronological thing. Of course, we get older, we age, time goes on, it marches. But you can slow it down for your body. You can slow down the aging process. And you do that by cutting out the carbs, cutting out the sugar, cutting out the alcohol, cutting out the coffee. All of those things are having such an effect on your body. They're wreaking havoc. If you look at your skin and you look at blemishes on your skin, whatever you have going on your skin, whether it's also red eyes or yellow eyes, can you imagine what's going on inside your body? So if you have things that are happening on the outside of your body, I can tell you right now, it is 10 times worse inside your body. You've got to do something about that. You can't just say, I'm not going to do something about it because I can't see it. It is there. If there's something going on the outside of your body, times that by 10 and put it somewhere inside your body. All right, so I hope you got something out of this video and you learned something about glycation. It is absolutely something that more people should be aware of and take note of and deal with. So follow us and check out our next video.